Greetings, developmental psychology students. This is the first in a series of mini lectures to give you a structure and an outline for the material that you will find in PowerPoints and in your readings and in the videos that we show in class that I will refer to as we go along here. So anyway, I hope you're doing good. It's a test for all of us, isn't it? Yeah, me too. So we're going to talk this time about middle childhood, 6 to around 12 or thereabouts. You've already seen the film 7 in America. If you haven't, I have a link in your PowerPoint for that. In addition, you can find it simply by Googling 7 in America. That was filmed in 1990, and we will make reference to the remainder of that series as we move forward. So let's talk about the basics, because that's what these mini lectures are going to be. Middle childhood is a time of relatively robust health in this country, and one of the things that has created that robust health is the availability of routine immunizations, and this has created a lower incidence of life-threatening illnesses in this country. Nevertheless, about 90% of all children contract at least one serious medical condition, but most of these are fairly short-term, yes? So there are some health problems that may be seen. Nearsightedness, that's about 1 in 4 kids, actually. But fewer ear infections, malnutrition, which contributes to a number of problems, notably in school and elsewhere, occurs not typically in this country, but can occur, and often the malnutrition is not about total calories, it's about the way in which people actually eat. So poverty is linked to a reduction in the array of decent foods to eat. I say decent meaning nutritious foods to eat, because high-fat, high-sugar foods are cheaper. So now, there is a higher range of illnesses during the first 2 years of elementary school because everybody is exposed to whatever else is going on, but also because the immune system is still developing. Yes, and that would be an intuition that would suggest that the coronavirus might be more serious in young children, and that does not appear to be true, and we don't know why. Okay, moving along. Health risks claim more victims than other sorts of things like diseases, and we have to be aware of that. We need to be aware that obesity creates psychological issues, including social distance, an increase in bullying, health risks, and so on. And we want to quickly say that genetic factors do not overwhelm the environmental factors of obesity. Many things can contribute to obesity, including family stressors, lack of physical activity, of course, but poor eating habits, food as a reward system, yes, and often a combination of things. And medical conditions are generally not the cause of obesity. So there are many issues that arise physically and emotionally from obesity, and you can find these in great detail in the PowerPoint. I know I keep looking, it looks like I'm looking down, but I'm looking at the screen. I got to remember to look up at the camera there, okay? I'm new at this too, yeah. Obesity didn't really start until the mid-70s in this country when fast foods came into existence and people had maybe more ability to get their own cars, and so fast foods and having more to do and people working more than one job as the minimum wage was not increased, all contributed to the obesity rates in this country. Colorado, Montana, parts of New England have the lowest rates, and the South has typically the highest rates. We know good things happen from weight management, including more peer involvement, things like positive emotions, better persistence through frustrating events and social situations. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the issues like bedwetting, which is actually called nocturnal enuresis, This is usually a failure of muscular responses to inhibit urination, to close the valves at the bladder neck, or perhaps a hormonal imbalance, less commonly due to a stress response when parents are fighting, when bad things are happening, and we would want people to get evaluated particularly when they have not been bedwetting but now are. That would be a sign that something more likely to be psychological and stress related is occurring. So when kids are depressed, do we want to give them antidepressants? In some ways, that's a straightforward question. In other ways, it's very complicated. One of the answers that's straightforward is that if a kiddo is really, really depressed, and particularly if they have suicidal ideation, which is somewhat rare, but happens, we can't wait to worry about the effects of the antidepressant. We want to get that on board in addition to counseling and probably family counseling as well. But we don't know the ultimate effects of antidepressants on a developing brain. We don't know what that is. So there are pros and cons for this. Stuttering is a very typical problem. Probably 1 in 10 kids stutter at least sporadically. Generally, they age out of this. On occasion, it continues. Speech therapy helps. ADHD is not uncommon in terms of what we think we see in the prevalence of ADHD, but sometimes ADHD is misdiagnosed. It can be overdiagnosed or even underdiagnosed. It takes there's no laboratory test for this. It takes a very shrewd clinician to figure out what's really going on. Autism is another developmental delay problem that is increasing. It's now about 1 in 53 kids, about 4 to 1 boys to girls. I linked you a YouTube video in your PowerPoint to give you an idea of what goes through the minds of people who are autistic. It's a 8.5-minute video of a woman who has retained full cognitive functioning and the ability to use a keyboard and electronic voice to tell you about her world. It's very important that you watch that. I would have played it in class. Okay, so remember Piaget? He's your favorite guy. We are now moving into the concrete operational stage, which means that kids learn about conservation, that matter is not created or destroyed by changing volume or number, and secondly, that they can do mathematical operations, plus, minus, multiplication, and division, which is the order in which you get those in school, and not surprisingly, since that's the order of complexity from first to last. And kids can do this because their brain is now capable of doing this. So what else can we talk about? So let's talk for a minute about the impacts of working. And we know that good adjustment of the child relates really mostly to the psychological functioning of the adults and also to the availability of the parents, at least a lot of the time, one or the other or both. Okay, so that gives you the basics. I want you to go over the team play issues and other things such as blended families and multi-generational families and gay and lesbian families. And the last thing to watch would be the Zach Walls video that I link in your PowerPoint. Okay? All right. Talk to you. Bye.